Hey guys, Troy Francis coming at you from Mayfair in London. So somebody was asking me recently, it was one of those sort of generic questions about what would you tell your 20-year-old self, or to put it another way, what would you do differently in your 20s now that you're 50? You know, what have you learned? How would you sort of mix things up? How would you adjust things? And the temptation with that question is always just to brush it off and to basically say, well, I wouldn't do anything differently at all, because the things that I did and the experiences that I had have made me the person that I am, and so therefore it all had value. And there is some truth in that, to be honest. You know, I mean, we make mistakes, okay, we mess things up, and I certainly did. I mean, I certainly messed up most things, really, objectively. But that in itself gives you something, you know, that in itself is valuable, because all of the mistakes that I made, both in terms of, you know, dating, relationships and stuff, but also in terms of career, in terms of business, it's all been valuable, because it's given me experience which has been positive and negative, a lot of it negative, but some of it positive as well. And that's created the person that I am now. And I think now I'm in a good place in my life where I am very adept in many of the key areas, really. I mean, I think in terms of dating, in terms of well, put it this way, let's say in terms of understanding social dynamics, human dynamics, I think I'm very adept at that now. I think in terms of networking, very, very strong. I think in terms of business, I mean, there's a room for improvement, God knows, but I'm certainly in a much better position than I was when I was in my 20s, when, quite frankly, I didn't know anything about anything. So the things that I've done, the way I've gone about things, has been beneficial, but in an incredibly circuitous way. All right, it's taken me a lot longer than it should have done to understand the way that things work, and to understand how I should operate, and to really get a handle on all these different areas of life. And it's all kind of interconnected as well. This is the thing. I mean, I was talking to a friend about this recently, and we were saying, you know, the thing, all of the dating stuff is great, and it's great that it has its own niche in terms of self-development or, you know, content, because a lot of guys, you know, they really need this stuff. You know, they really need to be taught how to operate in a man-to-woman context. But equally, it's all interrelated anyway, because the way that you are in your relationships with women is going to somewhat mirror the way that you are in other areas of your life. That's not entirely true, actually, because of course you always get these kind of guys who are very successful. You get these guys who are maybe CEOs or whatever, and they suck with women. But when you look at it the other way around, this friend of mine was saying that you very rarely get guys who get very good with women who are not then also good in business, or not then good at other areas of their life. Because when you level up with the intergender dynamic stuff, that then has huge application across these different areas. Okay, and certainly for me, what I found was that you know, I learned about this stuff. I learned about the dating stuff, the social dynamic stuff, because, you know, I was very keen to go out and date. I wanted to meet high quality women. I wanted to have a good time. But the knock-on effect of all of that was that I had to undergo really quite radical self-improvement, you know, transformation. And to do that enthusiastically, to do that hungrily, okay, and maybe I wouldn't have had that hunger if it hadn't have been for the romantic stroke sexual component to that. And the skills that then gave me were then transferable in other areas. So they were transferable in terms of my career. Okay, so the fact that I took risks in my career, you know, I left a pretty stable career that was quite well paid to go and do something for myself, and I did that at a fairly advanced age, really. I mean, generally, you know, people are going to do that kind of stuff in their 20s or maybe their early 30s or whatever. I mean, I did it in my 40s. would I have had the aptitude, would I have had the appetite for risk to do that if I hadn't worked on the other stuff? Maybe not, right? Maybe not. So all of this stuff is transferable. It sort of interrelates. Okay. I think the way that it doesn't interrelate so much, strangely, is when the guy is successful in his career and he's neglected the social side of things. For some reason, it doesn't quite transfer the same way. And it ought to, but it doesn't. And I don't really know why that is, except to say that I think that, here's the thing. Business and success in the material world requires predominantly, although not exclusively, but it weighs more heavily on the side of intellect and the ability to be analytical, logic, and so on and so forth. Okay, and the dating side of things, the romantic side of things, veers much more into the emotional. Now, there is a crossover there, because you also need emotional intelligence in business. You also need emotional intelligence when you're working with people, but you can kind of, in the modern Western capitalist structure, you can kind of bulldoze your way through, I think, particularly as a guy, and not have a lot of emotional intelligence, but have a lot of other bankable qualities that can take you to the top, and then you've neglected the emotional intelligence side of things, and that's not going to stand you in good stead with the dating and the romantic stuff. Okay, so it seems to not translate quite that way round. But if you work on the relationship skills, if you work on the dating skills, and then you address the business stuff, that seems to, as I said, I mean, most guys who get good with the relationship stuff tend to get good with the business stuff as well, because they've had to level up. All right, there is no choice. You have to level up. Okay, and you have to level up in terms of the way that you present yourself. You have to level up in terms of the way that you come across. You have to level up in terms of emotional intelligence, which, you know, ultimately is going to help you with networking, relationships, in business as well. So you know, so that's good news, I guess. But anyway, in terms of my life, in terms of my 20s, what would I have done differently? I think I probably would have put less emphasis on trying to get into relationships with women. I got into a few extremely ill-fated and ill-advised relationships with women that I really shouldn't have got into at that age, and a lot of that was really down to neediness, and there are probably psychological reasons for that. If you go back into my childhood, you know, parent-child divorce, all the rest of it. I think I was looking for some sort of emotional stability, and I was looking for it in the wrong people, and that caused me really a lot of problems. I mean, that really fucked me over. And I'm not sure, I mean, look, if you meet the love of your life and you just come out of college and you're 22 and you think, oh, this is the woman for me, I want to get married, I want to settle down, and you're sure about that, then great. I mean, who am I to say that's the wrong thing to do? But I do think in general that your 20s should be a decade that you spend getting to know yourself and probably working more on your career and really prioritizing that, like establishing yourself, because what that means is that then in your 30s as a guy, you're going to be much more dateable, you're going to be a much more bankable asset at that point. Now it kind of worked out for me actually anyway, because although, as I said, you know, I did get into a lot of not a lot, I got into a number of sort of pretty toxic relationships that I shouldn't really have got into, and it kind of fucked me over emotionally. But I was still working on the career stuff as well. You know, I had a corporate job, and by the time I hit my 30s, I was in quite a good position. You know, I was able to buy a property, I bought a couple of properties. You know, I had a bit of money, I was well dressed, the benefit, I wouldn't wish corporate work on my worst enemy really, but I mean, one of the benefits of it was that it really taught me to how to operate in polite society, I suppose. It polished me, because I was a very unpolished person. if you look at my late teens and very early 20s, I was, I was drinking a lot, I was partying a lot, I was doing drugs, all this kind of stuff, really, really all over the place. And then I got into corporate work, I sobered up, and that really helped me to forge a new identity, a new more socially acceptable identity. And it also instilled in me things like some sort of process, and the ability to work hard, and the ability actually also to do boring things, because another aspect of business and career is that it's not all glamour, right? It's not all excitement and fun stuff. You've got to be prepared to sit down and do boring stuff sometimes, and actually your capacity for doing boring stuff to some extent will predicate how successful you're going to be or not, because if you are super flighty and you're just all over the place and you're just looking for the next dopamine hit, and you have no attention to detail, and you don't want to do the more mundane workaday stuff, then probably it's going to be hard for you to be successful, I think. I mean, you could outsource all of that stuff, sure, but maybe you don't have the capital in that early stage, right? So, and also you want to be a bit hands-on in the early stages of any enterprise anyway, right? So corporate work taught me those things, and I am grateful for that. In the end, the milieu, the setup of corporate work wasn't to my taste, and I was always conscious that, frankly, you could make more money as an entrepreneur anyway than you could from working for somebody else. And who wants to really, be chained to the desk for sort of 10 hours a day or whatever it is. So playing some really loud music. Who wants to really be chained to the desk for 10 hours a day working for somebody else, and they're taking the lion's share of what you produce? Okay, doesn't seem like a very good deal, and you throw away a lot of freedom and so on. Good God, listen to this. I mean, look, we're sitting in Mayfair, right? One of the most expensive areas in London, enjoying a nice, polite cigar, glass of sparkling water, and somebody's playing bloody Cher. I mean, come on. Really? Is that necessary? But yeah, so, corporate work did benefit me somewhat. I think it would have been better if I could have started my own thing in my 20s, and I am envious of people who've done that. The only sort of caveat to that, or to give myself a little bit of credit here, is that it was actually, when I was in my 20s, it was kind of harder to start your own business, because now, to be honest, with the internet, you could set up a business today if you wanted to, right? You could go online, you could create some social media accounts, you can start posting content, you can start to market whatever it is, your particular area of expertise, start getting sales through. You can create a business. It's very, very easy these days, or relatively easy to do that, whereas back in the day, you need office space, you need paid advertising in like newspapers or television and things like this, you need staff. You couldn't, like, for example, I use the dictation program Otter now, Otter AI, for some of my stuff. So I'll sit there and talk into the computer and then transcribe it and everything else. And then you can run it through ChatGPT for editing if you want. None of that was available back in the day. So either I would have had to employ somebody to dictate to, or I would have had to sit down and write everything out longhand or on a typewriter or whatever, computer at the time or whatever it was. So there are definitely shortcuts, and it's just a lot easier with the internet to have a worldwide customer base, which you just couldn't really have had. It would have been very hard to have that back in the day. So the means of creating self-employment became easier as I got older, and it was really into my 30s and sort of mid to late 30s, and then going into my 40s when it became, and I was listening to a lot of podcasts. I was listening to obviously Tim Ferriss, the 4-hour, is it 4-hour work week or the 4-hour? Well, anyway, that book, and then there were various other things about building personal brand and stuff like that, and I found all that stuff fascinating, and then eventually I lent into it, in the niche that I'm in, or I'm currently in, which is the dating stuff, relationship stuff. And the reason I did that was because I'd also, had a lot of experience in that sphere, right? And I was interested in that. I was interested in human dynamics, intergender dynamics, but also just human dynamics, how people relate to one another, power structures, okay, hierarchies, all right, how people maintain dominance in a social group. I was really, really fascinated with that stuff. And I also love to write. I also love to create content. So putting the two things together, I was able to create a business. And first I sold books, and then I sold online courses, and then I sold coaching, and and all these other things, right? So all of that happened fairly organically for me. And if I could change anything, I would probably have started that earlier and not put as much focus on the actual relationships and the dating stuff, because none of those relationships that I had led anywhere. None of them were any good. Ultimately, all they did was kind of fuck me up. I mean, the only thing that you can say in their favor was that they gave me experience. They gave me experience of what not to do. Hard-won experience, by the way, and obviously that's part of what I pass on now to you guys when you're watching this. So yeah, I think I would have focused more on career, less on emotion, less on relationships, and I would have. I just wish I'd have known a lot of the self-development stuff that I know now. You know. I wish that I had been able to separate emotion away from purpose and action. Okay. You know, and I've talked about this in a couple of videos recently, but you need to take action regardless of how you feel. You need to not be prey to your emotions the whole time. And one of the problems that I had, and I still have it now, but I think I had it a lot more back then, was that I was completely at prey to my emotions. I was dictated by my emotions, and I sought to regulate my emotions a lot through the use of alcohol and also various, substances. If I'm being brutally honest about it, okay, this is where addiction comes from. It's this inherent strong desire, well, almost inescapable desire to change the way that we feel, okay, to change our emotional state. And I was completely imprisoned by that for at least a decade. And it massively fucked me over, all right? And I think part of that, although not the full part, because I think some people are just prone to that anyway, but I think part of it is wanting to fit in with other people. And I really wish that I'd recognised that actually fitting in with other people is a fool's errand, because quite frankly, most people are fucking idiots, and you don't want to be like most other people. I mean, by definition, if you want to do something that is extraordinary, you have to not be like other people, okay? And I spent a lot of time in my late teens, 20s, trying to fit in with other people around me, trying to fit in with the people that I thought were cool around me. And that was a mistake too. Because if I'd have just gone my own way and done my own thing, I would have been better off now. And I mean that I'm financially better off, I probably would have been in a better situation in life in general, okay? And part of that as well is the relationship stuff, because it's thinking that what this particular woman thinks about you is important, is in any way relevant to anything, and it really isn't. You meet somebody who is toxic, who's not right for you, who maybe doesn't have your best interests at heart, who is battling their own demons as well, right? Who is suffering themselves, right? And we've got to have sympathy for people out there. Everybody has their own cross to bear, okay? But you're dealing with people who are damaged, and they are treating you in a certain way, and that's making you feel bad about yourself. And really, you need to, as much as you can, disregard. Okay, you need to disregard what you think other people think of you, because it is irrelevant, right? If one person thinks Troy's an idiot, or Troy is this, or Troy is that, it's irrelevant. It's statistically irrelevant, okay? It doesn't matter, all right? All that matters really all that matters ultimately is your personal satisfaction with what you're doing. And I say satisfaction, not happiness, because I think happiness is a little bit of a chimera. I'm not sure happiness is a state that can be easily attained or indeed kept. all that really matters is your own personal satisfaction and then the results that you get. And when I say results, I mean, you know, are you in the relationship that you want to be in? Are you living in the place where you want to be? Is your work life what you want it to be? I talked about this recently. I mean, the issue with work is it takes up such a vast amount of our time that if your work is if you're not happy with the way that you are earning a living, right, that's a problem, and that's gonna come through, and it's going to affect the way that you interact with people, because people are going to sense that on you. Okay. I wish I'd just been aware of more of this stuff when I was younger in my 20s. I really do. I think things would have been very different. But again, coming full circle, in the end, the mistakes that we make and the fuck-ups along the way are the things that make us. So you can't live in regrets, but I suppose you can consider, all right, in an ideal world, if I'd done these things, would it have been better? I mean, Jay Waller, for example, content creator Jay Waller, is a big exponent of, you know, guys in their 20s, you know, keep your head down, work hard, build your business, build your career, make some money, all of that kind of stuff. The women will come, don't worry about that. I take a slightly more nuanced approach to it. I think that you want to practice the social skills, because I've seen too many dudes who don't, and they just focus on the career, and then they've got no clue what they're doing as far as relationships are concerned. That's not a good place to be. But equally, I think if there's going to be a weight of attention, that weight should be on the career stuff. It should be on the work stuff. Okay, it should be on establishing yourself as a man, and I would include actually fitness in that as well. Although I was going to the gym actually all through my 20s as well. But yeah, focus on those things. Focus on yourself, bro, as they say. And don't really worry. I mean, it also depends what you want, and probably in your 20s, maybe you don't even really know, or maybe you have a skewed idea about what you want. But even if you're looking to get married, have kids, whatever, married, have kids, all of that good stuff, again, relax. You don't have to do it when you're 25, you know? I mean, when you get into your 30s, you're going to have more experience, you're going to be more established, you're going to have more of an idea of what you want, okay? And at that point, you can start to think, okay, right, now's the time to put down roots and to look for the right person. But you don't want to do it too young. And you also don't want to have that FOMO, that fear of missing out. You think, oh shit, my 20s, I was locked down, and if only I could have done these different things, traveled, blah, blah, blah. So it's a fine balance, I think. But those are the things I would change if I had to. And obviously I can't, because we can't go back in time, so there it is. But those are some of the things I think I would definitely want to amend. Anyway, with all of that being said, I hope you found this interesting. Please give me a comment below, let me know what you think. Do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit the notifications bell as well. If you want to talk to me about coaching in any of the areas that we've discussed, then email me troyfrancis7laws@gmail.com. That is Troy Francis and then number 7 laws LAWS@gmail.com. That email address is below. We've got some live events coming up as well, actually. End of May, we've got Mexico City, we've got Dubai, 15th of June, one-day conference there, and then we've got a 3-day advanced bootcamp in London at the end of June as well, listed below. So if you're interested in any of those, drop me an email, include your WhatsApp details, and we can jump on a call and discuss. And yeah, if you're in your 20s, just focus on yourself, bro. Just literally. I mean, yeah, I know you're raging with hormones and you want to meet women and you want to date and you want to have a great time and all of that, and you can do that stuff, but don't take it too seriously, because now is not the time, okay? And it's really hard to believe that, but you have to believe that coming from me. I'm an old git. I know what I'm talking about. There's time enough for that stuff, okay? There's time enough for all of that stuff, and to worry about all of that stuff. Don't sweat it when you're young. Instead, when you're young, work on yourself, and you'll get yourself into a much better position when you're in your 30s and a bit older, and you're really going to be able to reap the fruits of what you've created. All right, with that being said, have a great rest of the day. I'll see you guys again very soon. Bye-bye.